Tonight on Saturday Matters, I have a blind date with an old diehard who's moonlighting as a pop star. Well, that's mentioned all the titles that Bruce Willis is famous for. Tonight he gives his very first interview for British television. We'll be exploring the mysteries of love and lust in the company of Dennis Potter, whose new television series is about to raise the temperature of the viewing public. I'll also be joined by the lovely Tom Conti, and Elaine Page will be showing exactly why anything goes on tonight's Saturday Matters.
Sue Lawley's at 10:50 after the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance from the Royal Albert Hall in the presence of Her Majesty the Queen, the Duke of Edinburgh and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother. Now on BBC One at 9 o'clock, the news and sport with Moira Stuart.
1 million East Germans crossed to the west today. East Berliners followed the bulldozers through the holes ripped in the Berlin Wall. Egon Krenz says he'll talk to Chancellor Kohl, but reunification will not be on the agenda. Good evening. The West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl and the East German leader Egon Krenz are to meet within the next few weeks to consider East Germany's political future. But Egon Krenz has said the question of reunification is not up for discussion. Today, 1 million East Germans crossed to the west.
After 28 years, East Germans have a lot of catching up to do. 2.7 million people have asked for exit visas, and there's a logjam at every border crossing. Behind them, East Berlin is a ghost city. But its leaders are determined it will not become a ghost country. Egon Krenz, the communist chief, said he'd spoken to Chancellor Kohl of West Germany and rejected all talk of reunification.
I made no bones about it. The question of German reunification is not a question which occupies me now. It's not on the agenda.
But they are putting Berlin back together as a city. Long shuttered stations on the Western Underground system have been reopened under the streets of East Berlin. They've been there all along, but closed and guarded. Now, it's possible to buy an away day to the west. What all this means is nightlife for the youngsters, drawn by the discotheques along the Kudamm, West Berlin's equivalent of the West End.
I come from Magdeburg. I'm looking in West Berlin and like to dance.
Great people, lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
And their parents are coming back loaded down with shopping. Suddenly, everybody's able to enjoy an ordinary life. This has been a week of mesmerizing change. In the space of a few days, East Germany has moved from being a hardline communist state into the front ranks of reform. We've seen a new government, a new Politburo, and it seems a new Communist Party. Free travel is a reality. Free elections are promised, and the Berlin Wall is being turned into rubble. On the western side, they're not waiting for the East Germans to take it down. With nothing now to fear, they've been trying to hack the wall apart themselves. But the East Germans see this as an assault on their sovereignty. This morning, border guards removed the rowdy West Berliners and put their own men back on their frontier. Mr. Krenz said today that the border may be open, but it's not up for question. He says the stability of Europe depends on East Germany surviving as a separate state. Brian Hanrahan, BBC News, East Berlin.
Thousands of East Germans crossed the Berlin Wall today, bringing West Berlin to a standstill. Bulldozers smashed new holes in the wall to ease the crush.
Within 20 minutes of the new crossing opening up this morning, this was the scale of East Berlin's demand to come west. The engineers who'd made this possible had begun work last night. The crowds, already jubilant, were there to watch them. Then, the moment that no one had believed would come so quickly, an official mauling of the Berlin Wall. 28 years of a country's imprisonment were dumped unceremoniously in a battered old truck. But everyone wanted a piece of it. The wall, in bits, was suddenly popular. An hour later, and 2 holes had been smashed through. Eberswalder Strasse was almost whole again. Standing so close to this new breach in the Berlin Wall and amid so much excitement, there's a real sense that the division of Germany is coming to an end, that the post-war map of Europe is finally changing. By dawn, it almost had. A final section was lifted away from what had been the most heavily guarded border in the world. By 8 o'clock this morning, the results of people power could at last be enjoyed.